Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Welcome back.
So we're going to talk about perhaps the second Dust Bowl. And this is a time when we're getting pelted with extremely heavy rain. So the rain might start at any time, and you guys will probably hear it inside the camper with us.
I know, it sounds like a bunch of suction cups on the top of the camper.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So what's it going to look like? What will the western half of the U.S. look like during the second Dust Bowl? And so this is authored by Michael Schneider, and this is posted over here in Zero Hedge. Scientists have begun using the term mega drought, we've heard that, to describe the multi-year drought that's been plaguing the western half of the country, and now we're being told it looks like 2021 will be the worst year of this mega drought so far by a wide margin. That is extremely troubling news because major water reservoirs have already dropped to dangerously low levels so far, and by a wide margin. That's huge, guys. This is a major national crisis. In fact, the drought's becoming visible by satellite, by space. And when we look at the map, you see the areas that are the hardest hit. The darker the color, the worse the situation. So it's really enveloping the whole western part of the U.S. as well as up into the Dakotas. And, this is only rapidly getting worse. So as you can see from the latest U.S. Drought Monitor map, nearly the entire western half of the nation is experiencing some level of drought. But an even more alarming fact is that much of the territory is currently in one of the three most serious levels of drought. A year ago, 4% of the West was in severe drought. Now, 58% of the West is being classified as severe, extreme, or exceptional drought. As the rain comes down harder.
See, there it is.
Now, if we could just ship this west. Think about that. A year ago, 4% of the West in severe. Now, 58%. That is extremely rapid. And we've seen just the wildfires get out of control. And it was a record year in Colorado and in California. So as the conditions just get drier and drier, many farmers become deeply concerned about what it will mean for growing season. New Mexico is right in the heart of the second Dust Bowl, and Chile farmer Glenn Duggins is bracing for a very difficult year. The Rio Grande is expected to be in extreme drought this year, creating tough conditions for local farmers, putting New Mexico's beloved chilies. It's all about the green chilies in New Mexico. We know that firsthand. It's going to be a tough year because we are out of water, said Glenn Duggins. And he's in Socorro County, and we spent time in Socorro. When he says they are out of water, he's not exaggerating. It's only early April, right? And the largest reservoir in the entire state stands at less than 11% capacity.
That's really, really low. And that's one thing we kept running into while we were there is you either had to haul water, and then hopefully if you're hauling water, the place you're getting water from never goes dry.
That was another part of what made us head to wetter territory because of, the wildfires. And when we were visiting family in Nevada, the smoke was just like something that was incredibly apocalyptic. And, it was just pretty damn concerning, at least. So farther north, managers with the Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District are in a position not seen in decades. There's no extra water in the reservoirs. Interstate water sharing agreements are restricting storage and releases from upstream reservoirs because New Mexico has fallen short of what it owes Texas. Other prominent reservoirs are already dangerously low as well. In fact, it's being projected that Lake Mead and Lake Powell are both headed for record lows. Country's two largest reservoirs are both headed for record lows. Last time Lake Mead reached a record low level was 2016. Latest projections from the Federal Bureau of Reclamation show Mead could fall below that mark as soon as July. Lake Powell is now just 36% full. Estimates show it could decline to a record low around March 2022. Officials are telling us that they are doing everything they can to conserve water, but if current trends continue, it's just a matter of time before more draconian, great word, restrictions start to be instituted. Further west, the state of California also appears to be heading towards a major water crisis. On Thursday, an unofficial end of California's wet season, officials announced that the accumulation of snow in the Sierra Nevada mountains and the Cascades was about 40% below average levels. The state doesn't have enough snow and rain banked to replenish its groundwater supplies, feeding its rivers and streams, or filling depleted reservoirs. It's not just that we're anticipating a dry year, it's that this is our second extremely dry year in a row, said Daniel Swain, a climate scientist at the University of California, Los Angeles and Nature Conservancy. Along with much of the U.S. West, it's parched, and so they should brace for water cuts and arid conditions that could trigger much more destructive wildfires. So we have seen droughts in California before, but this one is shaping up to be really, really bad. At this point, we're being told that agricultural consumers south of California's Delta will not be allowed to receive any water at all this year. Well, we got plenty.
Yeah, we're doing good if you can hear us.
In fact, we might end up getting lifted up by a river underneath us at any moment.
Oh, we forgot the boat.
Yes, we got to get a boat. We already said that.
Yeah, we did.
So if you are a farmer, how are you supposed to operate a farm if you're not allowed to have any water? Remember, this is early April, as it's only going to get worse in the summer months. And so this author, Michael Schneider, has been warning about the return of Dust Bowl conditions for a long time. And a lot of people didn't take him seriously, but you can't ignore what's happening. And just how bad was it in the Dust Bowls is the other question.
I did a little bit of study on that when I was in high school, and it was pretty severe. People just, they could go outside and their lungs would get filled with dirt. If you're inside, your lungs get filled with dirt. It was bad.
Yes, exactly. It gets into everything, including your bronchioles. So it's starting to happen again. Some of the dust storms are so big that you can actually be seen from space. A line of strong storms kicked up an enormous amount of dust in eastern New Mexico and West Texas Monday afternoon. So much it could be seen from satellite. A dust storm warning was issued for Lubbock and surrounding counties Monday evening due to damaging wind. Gusts in excess of 60 miles an hour and near zero visibility due to blowing dust. We've experienced that in New Mexico as well.
Yeah, we have experienced those little dust things, yep.
So the days of a second Dust Bowl are here, and they're going to be quite bitter. Our technology is way more advanced now. But, it doesn't seem like people work together, and when you're starting to talk about states withholding from other states, that's not the type of attitude we need to have.
No, it's not. It's really, really horrible. We need to work together.
Yeah, so it's interesting the timing, because the Dust Bowl came about after the Roaring 20s and, of course, after the end of World War I. And it didn't end until World War II really began. So it was in that whole period that this was happening. And we had banking acts that were enabled. And, of course, whenever I see things like an Emergency Banking Act of 1933, these things only head in one direction. Only one direction. And some of this feels so much like, what's happening today. You see September 1933, over 6 million young pigs are slaughtered, stabilized prices. Most of the meat goes to waste. Public outcry. It leads to the creation of the Federal Surplus Relief Corporation. Just what we need. More big government. And, it's interesting how more big government comes out of all these tragedies. One tragedy after another. You see all these new acts, more money going out. Government gets bigger, 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 more and more power. It's just nonstop. And in 1939, in the fall, the rain finally comes, bringing an end to the drought. And then what do we have? We have World War II starting. It's just this cycle that we see. The dust was so bad, you couldn't even see the Statue of Liberty in New York Sound.
That's a really, really horrible picture. It's sad.
all the way to the east. This is surprising. One monster dust storm reached the Atlantic Ocean. They had black blizzards constantly menacing the plains in the 1930s. And I hope you guys are getting a kick out of the rain downpouring like so fiercely. It's almost drowning us out. That's why I'm trying to keep my voice high.
Yeah, I hope you can hear us okay.
Yeah, meanwhile, we're talking about dust storms, but again, we're, not in the West anymore. So the Dust Bowl was both a man-made and a natural disaster. Beginning with World War I, American wheat harvest flowed like gold as demand boomed. Lured by record wheat prices and promises by land developers that rain follows the plow, farmers plowed, powered by new gasoline tractors, end up over-plowing and over-grazing the southern plains. And then when the drought and the Great Depression hit, wheat market collapsed. And, people get desperate and they do whatever they have to do. And the ecosystem disruption unleashed plagues of jackrabbits and grasshoppers. Kind of wild what we see. 23,000 insects per acre. We're having a lot of plagues now with, obviously, with the locusts.
Yeah, it's been really horrible.
Proposed solutions were truly out of the box, and people get desperate. They'll listen to old folklore and wives' tales. Who knows what they would resort to, and it gives you some crazy examples. A newspaper reporter gave the Dust Bowl its name. Associated Press reporter Robert Geiger opened his April 15th, 1935 dispatch with this line: 3 little words, achingly familiar on the Western farmer's tongue, rule life in the Dust Bowl of the continent. And dust storms crackled with powerful static electricity as well, perhaps starting some fires. And the swirling dust proved deadly. Those who inhaled the airborne prairie dust suffered coughing spasms, shortness of breath, asthma, bronchitis, and influenza. Much like miners, Dust Bowl residents exhibited signs of silicosis from breathing extremely fine silt particles, which had high silica content. Dust pneumonia, also called brown plague, killed hundreds and was particularly lethal for infants, children, and the elderly. And the federal government paid farmers to plow under fields and butcher livestock as the gods are bowling up in the sky.
Yes, the gods are not pleased.
Most farm families did not flee the Dust Bowl. They stuck it out. And few Okies were actually from Oklahoma. As we are hanging on here within the deluge.
Yes.
I've showed you guys this before. 100 U.S. weather patents related to weather modification. They start back in 1891. Wow. Method of producing rainfall. Well, if you could deduce that, maybe you could deduce a method of stopping rainfall. 1891. 1913. A rainmaker. 1920. Process and apparatus for the production of intense artificial clouds, fogs, and mists. 1927, process of producing smoke clouds for moving aircraft. So you see, these are in the 20s, and the Dust Bowl came about in the 30s. Just, coincidence. And meanwhile, in today's news, we see China to expand weather modification program to cover an area larger than India. And we also see over at Strange Sounds, China is weaponizing the weather and expands its weather modification. Well, where there's a will, there's a way, guys.
They're going to take control, and that's why it's so important that we all get a grip on our own lives and take control of what we can.
Yes, and if you are in the east, get a boat.
Yes, get a boat.
And if you are in the west, start doing a rain dance.
Yes, indeed.
Thanks so much for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. Thank you for putting up with the rain. And we'll pray that the rain will be falling like this out in the west very soon.
We will. God bless and namaste.
God bless. Namaste.